dreams last for so long, even after you're gone. I know you love me, and soon you'll see you were meant for me. I was meant for you. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Pluck and Chuck Guitar Series, and this is the You Were Meant for Me lesson. Songs by Jewel Kilcher, and this song has a really, really special place in my heart because this was the kind of stuff that was playing on the radio in the 90s when I would go to bed and listen to the radio, so I just, this song brings back like huge waves of nostalgia for me, so I'm really excited about it. But it has a place in this series, so we're going to put it in technically where it belongs, but I'm especially excited about this one. Reminder, there's a lesson navigator, and it's down in the description box below, and it's going to have timestamps to get you throughout the different parts of this lesson. It'll have a link to the tab that you can use to get you along with this lesson, and it'll have links to my extra lesson pages that will give you more information on this song and generally guide you through the material. Okay, so we're still in this kind of quarter note groove mini-series, and this is the second song in that group. The first one was the Mario Kart love song. If you guys learned that song, you're going to find this to be very, very similar to that. The groove is very, very similar in the right hand. The things we're adding some more finger plucks. So you're going to be using more than just one finger to kind of pluck strings in between the notes. And we're also adding a swing rhythm. And for those of you who don't know what a swing rhythm is, most American music gets it from the blues, you know. It's more of a feel than anything, but it's kind of like that. And I'll have a section where I explain it in detail and how to get to it, because I've taught this song to some people before, and the swing throws a lot of people off. So for those of you who are not totally sure you're going to get it, I will walk you through it, and then we'll go into the picking hand section to explain how to integrate that rhythm into your finger picking stuff. But generally speaking, this song goes pretty slow, so it's a really good learning song, and yeah, let's get ready for some good old 90s radio goodness. Yeah. Alright, let's get into it. So I think you'll find a lot of the chords in this song to be very familiar chords, but a lot of them are shell versions of chords that you know, like you're taking a G chord and just using two notes out of it. But once you get around that idea, you'll find this section's not too tricky. There's really only three sections to this song. There's the verse, there's the chorus, and there's the bridge. And the rest of the song is all just repeated loops of those. And the loops are pretty short, so if you can get through those sections, you'll find this section's not too tricky. We're going to start out with a Cadd9 chord, and it's different from the Cadd9 that you know in that the D string is open. It doesn't have this E here, it's open D string. So I'm using ring finger 3rd fret of the A string and pinky 4th fret of the D string. I mean the B string. Pinky 4th fret of the B string. And these might not be your favorite fingers to do this with, but they help you get to the other chords easier, so I recommend them, but you can use whatever fingers you want. It's not extremely critical. So we've got the Cadd9 chord, and then we go to a G with the B in the bass. We notice we only changed one note. This ring finger lifted, and the middle finger came down on the 2nd fret of the A string. This pinky 3rd fret of the B string is still there. After that, we go to a regular old C major chord. Ring finger 3rd fret of the A string, pointer finger 2nd fret of the D string, pointer finger 1st fret of the B string. And then finally in this section, E minor. So that's an important little 4-chord loop. So it starts out the song and starts out the verses. I hear the clock, it's 6 a.m. I feel so far from where I've been. And then it's going to repeat with a slight variation. I got my eggs and my pancakes too. I got my maple syrup. After the C chord, instead of there being an E minor, it's going to go to a D chord. Everything but you. So maybe just try to brush through that little sequence, those two versions of that one chord progression. I'll do the second part of the verse and kind of say the chords. That's Cadd9. Break the yolks and make a G with a B in the bass. C, I kind of like it in my E minor place. I wipe the Cadd9 with me, don't leave the G with the B in the bass. I see to put wet towels on the D anymore, cause... So you see the second part of the verse just repeats exactly what was in the first part and what was in the intro. So there is your chorus, and there's your verse intro stuff. And now we're going to go on to the actual chorus of the song. The chorus starts out with a C, goes to a D, and actually I usually do a D with a suspended fourth there. You don't have to, but you'll see later, for this version of the song, it's probably good to just put the D with the sus4 here. Then it's going to go to a G with a walk down. The G down here is going to go to an F sharp, to an E minor chord. It's very similar to progressions we've had in virtually all of our other songs. It's G, the D with F sharp on the bass, and E minor. You can do that too. I would generally keep these two fingers up here and just walk down the bass note. So the way you do that is you write a regular old G chord, middle finger 3rd fret of the thick E string, pointer finger 2nd fret of the A string, ring finger 3rd fret of the B string, and pinky 3rd fret of the E string. And when you lift this middle finger up, the pointer finger comes over to the 2nd fret of the E string, and then you're right into the E minor chord. So if I just do that much with the words so far. Dreams last for D so long, G, even, the F sharp on the bass, even after you're gone, E minor. And it's just going to repeat that same thing again, E minor. I know D loves me, and G, the F sharp you will see, E minor. And then the last little part of the chorus is just 3 chords. Almost like you're starting again. C, you were meant for me. D again. I was meant for you. And it goes to an E minor instead of finishing the loop. So see if you can put that whole thing together and really get the chorus changes into your head, and then try to put them together with the verse changes if you can, to make sure you really got that solidly under your belt. Finally, we're going to go on to the bridge. The bridge uses a couple of new chords, not very many, but starts out with some similar things. It starts out with a C, then goes to a regular old D chord, and then the B minor chord. For those of you who haven't done this in a while, bar on the 2nd fret of the A string, ring finger 4th fret of the D string, pinky 4th fret of the G string, middle finger 3rd fret of the B string, and if you can, get that bar to get the 2nd fret of the thin E string. There's your B minor chord. So make sure you got that worked out. Again, C to the D, the B minor. It's going to go back to a D, so 2nd D chord, and then to a C again. So just to do that much with the words, C. I go about my business, I'm D, doing fine. Besides B minor would say if I D you on the line, to a C again. And the C has a walk down. The walk down goes as such. You're starting out on the 3rd fret of the A string, you're lifting the ring finger, and then the pointer finger is coming over to be on the 2nd fret of the A string. And then you're going to end it on this A minor chord, and all you do is lift that middle finger, put it back over on the D string, give you the A minor chord. So it's very similar to the walk down you had with the G. The fingering's pretty similar. So see if you can take something from that. Again, C, down to the B on the bass, to an A minor 7. And then you're into the 2nd part of the short bridge on the same minor 7. Same old story, not D. Much to say, B minor. Hearts are broken every day. E minor is the very end. So if I go through that whole bridge one more time, wrapping the whole thing up, just brushing the chord and saying the words. C. I go about my business, I'm D, doing fine. Besides, B minor would say if I D had you on the line. The walk down from the C to the A minor 7. Same old story, not D. Much to say, B minor. Hearts are broken every day. Really slowly brush that E minor. And that is all the chord material for this song. So go over that, make sure you really got it memorized really well, know it by heart, and then go on to the picking hand section. So to explain how to do the swing thing, we're going to get our handy-dandy hands out. I'm going to show you how to count a little bit the way Indian musicians count with stuff. They kind of point to their fingers in this sort of way. So this song is in 4/4. You're basically just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing real fancy. And the swing is in the 8th note. So if 4/4, if each one of those counts in 4/4 is a quarter note, you're swinging the eighth notes. The eighth notes are kind of half of that. So you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the swing means that the and, that kind of second note for each quarter note, is shorter than the first note. You make the first note longer and the second note a little bit shorter. And that will sound a little bit like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, real swing can be bent different ways. You can have that first note be shorter or longer to give it some different feels. But for people who are just trying to get this mechanically so they can play the song, we're going to do what's called a really straight swing, like a 12/8 swing. And the way you do that is you kind of pretend each one of these beats is divided in 3 then. You kind of count it like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. And then what you do is you take the 1 and you take the and out. Pretend it's not there. And that is going to mean that that first little beat you get gets 2 counts, the 1 and then the is where the shorter note goes. So you literally force it to be a separation between the notes. The first note's twice as long as the second one. So that would go from being 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 to 1 and 2, 3, and 4. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So now I'm going to go through that whole exercise just kind of straight through. I'm going to start out counting quarter notes 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to go 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. And then I'm going to go 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So you can literally kind of build into it. So get your handy dandy hands out and you just kind of point to each finger as you go through it. I'll do each cycle twice. And you can repeat this as many times as you need. I've seen some people who take a little while to get used to this, but it's really worth doing. This feel shows up in a lot of stuff. So it's really worth an exercise. So here we go. Ready? And go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and the triplets. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So go through that again if you didn't quite lock with it this time. Do it as many times as you need, because eventually we got to speed that up to 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Ba ba dun da 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 ba dun da 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 ba dun da da da. You see how this feel is kind of how the song is set up. When you really get this feeling in, it'll be much easier to lock into playing the right hand groove. So that's the section on swing, and now would be a good time to go to the picking hand section. Bye-bye. So we're sort of picking up where the Mario Kart love song left off, and we're adding some more plucking action in this one. So, yeah, hold on to your seatbelts. I'm going to show you how this goes right away. I'm holding a C chord in my fretting hand. Looks a bit like this. See, I just played the same thing 4 times right there. So you'll see it's a pretty short loop that you have to get. And for the most part, you can keep the thumb on the A string, the pointer finger on the D string, middle finger on the B string, and the ring finger on the thin E string. And I'll explain where the string shifting happens later, but if you can get this pattern on just those strings for now, you should be in good shape. So the first thing we're going to do is just the first 3 strokes to get used to the swing rhythm a little bit. We're talking about the thumb pluck on the A string, doing a pluck on the open G string, and then kind of chuck strumming these lower couple of strings with the pointer finger again. So again, we're plucking with the pointer finger and then chucking with it. So again, 3 strokes. Thumb, pluck, chuck. And with the rhythm, it'll just be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So if you can just get those first 3 strokes down, you're ready to go on. And we're going to add just 1 single stroke to that. We're now going to add the pluck with the middle finger. So again, the pointer finger's plucking on the G string, and the middle finger is plucking on the B string, right after the chuck. So it's thumb, pluck, chuck, pluck, with a swing rhythm. So that'll sound a bit like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So see if you can get that much down. And one thing you really want to start to listen for at this point is that you can make your bass note keep ringing. I don't know if you noticed before, when I do my chucks, I've been planting my thumb on the E string, not on the A string. Because you're going to see in this pattern, this bass note that we have down here is going to be allowed to ring for a while, but you want to make sure you can still hear it. And if you plant it right back on the A string, it's going to get muted. You won't be able to hear it. So I'm planting it on the E string so that this note can keep ringing. So see if you can do those first 4 strokes that you just did, but still hear the bass note. I'll play it a little bit louder so you can hear. You can still hear everything ringing. So make sure after that pattern you can still hear that bass note ringing out. And once you're definitely sure you can do that, then we're ready to go on to the next part. After this, we're going to add one more stroke that's really going to make you hear, oh yeah, this is the pattern from that song. This is where it's going to start to click. We have thumb, pluck, chuck, pluck, and then we're adding another pluck up here on the E string. And there's a little pause in there. If it's a regular quarter note groove, you might think there's an extra thumb stroke in there. There's not. There's a little break in there. It sounds like thumb, pluck, chuck, pluck. Hear that little pause? Thumb, pluck, chuck, pluck, So now I'll count along with that, and you should play along with me if you can. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's most of it. There's just one little fragment at the end that we got to add on. 2 more strokes. And the tricky part about these is you're doing a chuck without a bass note before. It's just kind of an empty. You're just kind of lifting the hand and just slapping out of nowhere. So I would almost practice this fragment by itself, and the fragment is rest, pluck, chuck, pluck. Rest, pluck, chuck, pluck. And the plucks are on the ring finger's doing the thin E string, and the middle finger's doing the B string. So it's rest, rest, pluck, chuck, pluck. If I count into it, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So make sure you can do that, and then we're going to try to put that together with the first little bit that we had. Whole thing together sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, one thing that might help to get used to doing this whole thing, before trying to loop it like that, just play the pattern once by itself. Thumb, pluck, chuck, pluck, rest, pluck, chuck, pluck, and then just stop. Thumb, pluck, chuck, pluck, rest, pluck, chuck, pluck, and just stop. And then when you start to get more confident, just try to loop the whole thing together. And if you can get that whole thing just kind of looped eternally, then you are definitely ready to go on to the next section of the song, because that's most of what your right hand has to do right there. So once you've got your picking hand and your fretting hand things worked out, you're ready to put them together. And one of the tricky things you've got to watch out for in this song is there are a lot of transition notes that kind of occur as you're lifting your fingers and switching between your chord shapes, and they're not super duper essential, but they really make the song nice, and they're pretty characteristic in it, so I'm going to explain them in this section. You can just kind of, catch as catch can between the chords, but if you really want to play this to the record, I'm going to explain how you do that now. So even in this first riff, again, we've got our fingers planted, thumb on the A string, these 3 fingers on the thinnest strings. No surprise yet. As you're coming out of the G with the B and the bass, you lift your fingers and you want to play this open B string with your middle finger. And one way I would practice this is just when you're coming up to it, just slow down and really hear it ring out. And then when you put the C chord down, your fingers will stop that note. So just kind of zipping along. And as you're coming out of the C chord, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to play the open B string. You're going to lift the C chord just a little bit early so that when you hit the B string, it's not the C, it's the open B. And then you're going to do E minor chord. So just to show how that first section goes. Emphasize those notes a little bit heavily, but you'll kind of see getting used to bringing them out's a trick. When you get to this E minor chord, you want the thumb to be playing on the thick E string. And if you don't have the ringing bass on this one, it's not the biggest deal. Not muting the thick E string is a little trickier than the other ones, but if you just go and just stop this one, it'll be okay because this chord has more notes in it than the other ones, so it still has a nice warm feeling to it, even if you mute the bass string. So I would recommend playing the thumb like that for this chord. And one other thing about this chord, as you are transitioning out of it back to the C chord, you want to use the pointer finger to play the open D string, not the G string like it was before. And the reason is because there's a little leading action that happens. This D is just a step above the C, back in the Cadd9 chord at the beginning. So you'll find there's a little thing that happens with the pattern. It's just a little melodic motion that really kind of stands out. And it's the same thing when you go through that progression again. Even when you're on this D chord. You want to use the pointer finger. You want to shift it down a little bit so that it takes that open D string and gets you back to the top of the pattern. It's another little melodic thing that makes this section kind of warm. So if I play that whole verse with all those little melodic things in there, those are the main things you want to listen for as I play through. I'm going to do that now. Oh, I forgot to mention, a lot of times when you do this D chord, you can do a little hammer there. You could play... Or you can do a little... That little hammer there is nice, if you can get it in there. Your middle finger just goes on the thin E string. It's a nice little flourish to add in there. So once you've got that worked out, all the verses are pretty much the same, so those are all the tricks there. When you get to the chorus, you have to shift which fingers are playing in the picking pattern. Instead of picking all 3 of these strings, you're pretty much just picking the B and the E string for the first 2 chords. You're over the C. You see your middle and your ring, you're just going B, E, B, E. And the same thing on the D chord. Just going B, E, B, E. So that's the first 2 chords. Then you have this Walkdown. This Walkdown has got some very notable kind of held over notes between the chords, and like I said, it's not absolutely essential that you do this. I used to play the song without even this Walkdown down here, and that works just fine. But this is a subtle little thing that if you want to be classy, I would throw this in. What you're doing first of all is you are taking your fingers and you're moving them to the thicker strings. So you got your pointer finger on the D, middle on the G, ring finger on the B. And with the G chord, when your ring finger plays this D right here, 3rd fret of the B string, really let it ring. So even as this bass note happens, you still want to be able to hear this D coming through, because it's going to kind of carry over between this chord this chord, you want the open B string to sound as you're going into the E minor chord. And the last thing is you're going to move the fingers back up and you're going to use the ring finger to play the thin E string. And those three little notes, they almost sing a little melody over this bass note. Can you hear it coming out? D, D, D. One more time. It's kind of a folksy sort of thing, but it's really, really nice to have those notes kind of held over. It makes the song not feel like it's so mechanical. So try to work that into the Walkdown if you can. So after you've gotten all the way around to I was meant for you, and you've held that E minor chord, you'll notice on a lot of the performances, Jewel will do this little harmonic-y thing. And all that is, you go up to the 7th fret, and then you kind of gently lay your finger across the 7th fret, like right over the fret. For those of you who don't do harmonics, you don't want to push down. You want to kind of let your fingers touch the string, but not be pushing down. And then really quickly bring your finger away so the strings can ring. But she just goes 7th fret of the D, the G, the B, and the E string. And then back to the B for the last note. So I just plant my thumb and my 3 picking fingers here. And let that ring. It's just a little fill that she does. And in context, it sounds like, you were meant for me, I was meant for you. It comes right after that bass note. She'll go like, she'll really let that bass note ring out, and then harmonic-y thing. So that's another little thing that happens in the song. And then, at that point, we're ready to go into the bridge and get into the ticks that are in that part of the song. This part, I tend to like to bring out the transition notes a little bit more even, because the notes that would just occur if you just drop your to the open strings between chords sound a little weird. So you want to anticipate the motions a little bit. Whereas before you would just kind of play whatever note after you lifted your fingers off, you want to get to the chords beforehand if you can. So you play in this C. What I do is I almost rush my middle finger over here to play the F sharp on the thin E string. It gets you into the D chord a little bit faster, and it'll be the same thing with the B minor chord. You want to get your fingers in place for it early. So right before you're doing the thumb stroke, when that ring finger is doing that last stroke, then you're already on the B minor chord. Oh, by the way, I should remind you that the patterns on the bridge are pretty much like they were on the chorus, where you're playing middle finger on the B string, ring finger on the E string, and then those two again. So you'll see the right hand pattern, or I guess the picking pattern, is pretty much the same as on the chorus, so that makes that easier. So after this B minor chord here, there's a moment where you just kind of straight pluck a couple of chords, and it's sort of an intense moment in the song, so getting this transition can really add a lot to the power of the song, but it takes a little getting used to. So first of all, when you get to the D, it's the second time you play the D chord, you're plucking all 4 notes of it straight, and then when you go to the C chord, you can also pluck all 4 notes. I actually tend to like to pluck just these 3 notes because, as you'll see in a minute, the thumb's got to do some things, so if you just pluck 3 notes of the C chord, that's good, but let me just show you how it goes to get into it. It'd be good if you just played along. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. You're coming out of the B minor chord. One more time. See, I kind of slap it and then pluck the D twice, and we're into the C thing. One more time. So make sure you've got everything up to that point worked in, and then I'm going to explain how this Walkdown goes. So I showed you that the Walkdown before starts 3rd fret of the A string, and then goes to the 2nd fret of the A string, and goes to this A minor chord. It works pretty well if you just go from the C shape, use the ring finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret, and then move that 2nd fret right over to the D string, and you're ready for the A minor chord. And what you do with the picking hand is you go between the thumb and, I guess you use the middle finger to play the C, the pointer finger of the B string. So you just go back and forth. Thumb, finger, thumb, finger, thumb. Thumb, finger, thumb, and you're back into the pattern. That thumb stroke is right back into. So take a second to get the Walkdown, and then see if you can put it together with what happens before this B minor chord. I'll show you that whole transition. Might take you a little bit to work that out, so I'll play this one more time for you. And then you're back into the pattern. So to finish this out, the last part of the bridge, you've just got this A minor 7 chord, the D chord again, and then when you actually get to the B minor chord, you really just brush it. You don't play any pattern over it. The A minor was the pattern, D with the pattern, just brush the B minor, and you just brush an E minor chord. And that's the whole bridge. So if I move along slowly with that, if I sort of sing the words, go about my business, I'm doing fine. Besides, what would I say if I had you on the line? Same old story, not much to say. Hearts are broken every day. And I should note that when you're on that last D chord, rather than trying to finish the pattern, you just kind of leave it on that last chuck strum and switch to your B minor chord. It gives you a little bit more time to change, gives it a little more emphasis. So it's another little thing to note about this. So I'll go over this bridge one more time and say the chords as I would say the words. So starting on C. I see about my business, I'm D, doing fine. Besides a B minor, would say if I D and a C, walk down, A minor 7, D, much to say, B minor, hearts are broken every line. So that's really all there is to the bridge. And once you've gotten the bridge down, that's pretty much all the tricks to the song. So before I do the playthrough of this song, there's one little thing I want to point out. This song was originally written and sung by a lady with a lady voice, and lady voices are higher than boy voices. And this song, I'm going to sing it in the original key, but it's going to sound a little funny in my voice because it really doesn't belong there. So when I actually perform this song in front of a crowd, which is not often, but when I do, I'll put the capo on the 4th fret. That'll bring it into a little better key for my voice, and I recommend guys do that. Just generally, it's a good strategy. You can listen to it real quick. I hear the clock at 6 a.m. I feel so far from where I've been. A little bit of the chorus. Dreams last for so long, even after you're gone. Gets a little bit more of the meat of your voice in there if you're a guy. It imitates where it would sit in her voice if you put the capo on the 4th fret. So that's just a little recommendation that I make. But without further ado, play something that you can play along with. So here we go. Hear the clock, it's 6 a.m. I feel so far from where I've been. I got my eggs and my pancakes too. I got my maple syrup, everything but you. I break the yolks and make a smiley face. I kinda like it in my brand new place. I like the spots up over me, don't leave the keys in the door. I never put wet towels on the floor anymore, 'cause dreams last for so long, even after you're gone. I know you love me, and soon you will see you were meant for me, and I was meant for you. I called my mom and she was out
people been used. Put on my coat and it pouring rain. I saw a movie, it just wasn't the same, because it was happy and I was sad and made me miss you. Who's so bad? 'Cause dreams last for so long, even after you're gone. I know you love me, and soon you'll see you were meant for me, and I was meant for you. I go about my business, I'm doing fine. Besides, what would I say if I had you on the line? Same old story, not much to say. Hearts are broken every day.